I had always loved finding quiet, untouched places. So when I saw a cabin rental deep in the Appalachian Mountains, I booked it right away. The listing said it was secluded, perfect for getting away from the city. I didn't know then that my wish for peace would turn into a nightmare. I arrived at the cabin just as the sun was setting, and the moon was beginning to rise, casting an eerie glow over the dense forest. The shadows of the trees stretched long and dark across the ground. The cabin was charming but had an eerie stillness. I told myself it was just my city nerves and started unpacking. The first night was quiet, though I had trouble sleeping. The silence was overwhelming, and every creak of the old wood seemed extra loud. I woke up several times, thinking I heard something outside. Each time I looked out the window, I saw only darkness, illuminated by the pale, ghostly light of the moon. On the second day, I decided to explore the area. The forest was thick, with tall trees all around. The cool, fresh air was a nice change from the hot city. I hiked for hours, enjoying the peace. Then I found an old, overgrown path that made me uneasy. The path led to a ruined stone building deep in the forest. It looked like it had been a small chapel, but was now falling apart. The roof had caved in, and vines covered the walls. The place felt wrong, with a sense of dread hanging in the air. Despite my fear, I stepped inside. The inside was even creepier. Broken benches lay on the floor, and the altar was cracked. Strange symbols were carved into the stone. They didn't look like anything I'd ever seen. A shiver ran down my spine, and I decided to leave. That night, I had terrible dreams, dark, twisted visions of the chapel and the forest. I saw shadowy figures in the trees, watching me with hollow eyes. The moonlight streamed through the cabin windows, casting long, eerie shadows. I woke up several times, soaked in sweat, feeling like I was being watched. By morning, I was exhausted and scared. I tried to shake off the fear during the day, but it stayed with me. Every time I went outside, I felt eyes on me. Every rustle of leaves made my heart race. I stayed close to the cabin, hoping the familiar place would calm me. But as night fell and the moon rose, the dread returned. I locked all the doors and windows, trying to keep whatever was out there away. The cabin, once a safe place, now felt like a trap. I heard faint whispers, sinister and creeping through the walls. The air grew colder, and a heavy weight settled over the room. Suddenly, there was a loud bang on the door, followed by rapid knocks. My heart pounded as I crept to the door, trying to stay quiet. The knocking continued, getting more frantic. I looked through the peephole, but no one was there. Then I realized the knocking was coming from everywhere. Every door, every window, the walls. I backed away, clutching a kitchen knife, the only weapon I had. The whispers got louder, calling my name. I don't know how long I sat there, frozen with fear. Eventually, the knocking stopped and the whispers faded. But the silence was even more terrifying. I didn't sleep that night, too afraid to close my eyes. The moonlight through the windows cast shadows that seemed to move on their own. When dawn finally came, I decided to leave. I quickly packed my things, glancing over my shoulder the whole time. As I loaded my bags into the car, I saw something that made my blood run cold. The symbols from the chapel were carved into the wooden posts of the porch, fresh and deep. I didn't wait to investigate. I jumped into the car and sped down the narrow road, desperate to get away. As I drove, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed. Every turn seemed to bring me closer to the chapel instead of farther away. The trees blurred past, their branches like skeletal fingers. My hands shook on the wheel, and I could hardly breathe. The moon, still visible in the early morning light, seemed to watch me like a cold, unblinking eye. Finally, after what felt like hours, I reached the main road. Relief washed over me when I saw other cars and signs of life. But the feeling of being watched never left. Even now, safe in my apartment far from that cabin, I can't escape the sense that something followed me. The shadows in my home seem to move, and at night, I hear faint whispers calling my name. The moon outside my window now feels like a haunting reminder of the terror I left behind. I don't know what I disturbed in that forest, but I fear it will never let me go.